Tuscany is one of the most picturesque places in Italy. It's visited by millions of people every year and has just about everything that you could ask for from a vacation destination. And if you're planning a trip here, you won't be disappointed. Stay tuned to find out how to make the most of your trip, how to get there, the best time to visit, as well as where to stay and what there is to do. And of course, tons of helpful tips along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Jasmine. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's go. Tuscany is the birthplace of the Italian Renaissance and home to beautiful rolling hills, quaint hilltop villages, hidden vineyards, and the most delicious food you will taste. So if you're looking to sample some of the best food and wine, enjoy beautiful scenery, and stroll through medieval towns, you'll find it all in Tuscany. Getting here is so straightforward. There's an airport in Florence and an extensive and efficient train network that runs regularly from Florence to different regions of Tuscany. And if you are coming from a different city, such as Rome, the trains are just as accessible. There's also buses that run from major cities too, such as Rome, so you have many options to get there. But the easiest way to see this incredible region is by renting a car. And I would highly recommend this. Not only does it give you more freedom to explore various regions, but you'll also be able to get around more quickly. Which takes us to the best way to get around. Honestly, I do suggest renting a car a lot, but it is genuinely the easiest way to get around here. And a road trip through this region is such an unforgettable experience. Tuscany has well-maintained roads, and driving through the picturesque countryside is so enjoyable. If you've never drove abroad before and are a little worried about it, then you can always get public transport, and local buses are available for exploring the smaller towns. But renting a car provides flexibility, especially if you want to visit more remote areas and vineyards. Do keep in mind that some historic town centers have restricted access to cars, and you'll see the signs to these areas clearly. And if you do decide to rent a car, ensure you get additional insurance, as Italians are known for bumping other cars in order to park as tightly as possible. The best time to visit Tuscany is during the spring, so April to June, and fall, which is September to October. The weather is pleasant and not so intense, and the tourist crowds are not overwhelming. And if you're a real foodie, then visit during October when it's harvest time, and you'll be able to sample the incredibly fresh truffles, wines, and there's also more local food festivals around. Tuscany offers some really amazing accommodation options, whether it's luxurious country villas, rustic farmhouses, or budget hostels that you're looking for, you'll find it here. If you're staying for a week or more, then I always like to stay in different areas to get the most out of the region and to minimize the time spent traveling. But where to base yourself can be difficult, as there's lots of options. But for anyone visiting Tuscany for the first time, then Florence is a must. It's a gorgeous city and is full of world-class museums, art galleries, stunning architecture, and delicious restaurants, and there's so much to see. It's also better to base yourself here if you're on a budget. You'll find more options for accommodation as it's a bigger city. Not only that, but it's the most central location, so if you don't want to hire a car, you can still get to almost anywhere else, as Florence is the central train hub. And if you still want to stay in a city, then Siena is another great option and a beautiful place to visit or base yourself. With its stunning Gothic architecture, streets full of cute cafes, antique shops, and boutiques, as well as delicious pastry shops, and Siena has some of the best museums in Italy, including the Palazzo Ducale. Another great option is Pitigliano, a small medieval hilltop town which isn't too far from Siena. It has absolutely incredible architecture, grand Renaissance palaces, and stunning views over the surrounding valleys, as well as some of the most therapeutic thermal springs in the area. So if you're looking for a relaxing trip, then a visit to this area is a must. The charming streets are filled with delicious restaurants and cafes, small artisan shops, and some unmissable wine cellars. If you're looking for a small rural town and incredible scenery, then Asciano is for you. Located in the Siena province of Italy, this area is truly stunning and full of amazing wineries, the most delicious cuisine, and is home to the iconic UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Agriturismo Baccolano, which is known for its beauty. So be sure to add this to your itinerary. For something a little different and less touristy, you have Pitigliano, once known as Little Jerusalem. This little Tuscan town is in the beautiful region of Maremma near the coast. It's surrounded by the deep gorges of the two rivers Lente and Melita, and is perfect for anyone who wants that quintessential Tuscan visit. With its narrow streets full of local art galleries, antique shops, cozy restaurants, and the Jewish quarter, it's one of the most characteristic villages, and I guarantee it will be the highlight of your trip to Tuscany. And finally, you have the beautiful hill town of San Gimignano, famous for its medieval architecture and unique towers, giving it the nickname of Medieval Manhattan. It's perfect for those seeking history, atmosphere, and a real taste of rural Italy. It's home to one of Italy's finest white wines and has many wineries to sample it. It makes for a great base or day trip as it's only around an hour from Florence. So what is there to do in Tuscany? There's certainly a lot of options for you to choose from, and some which you absolutely need to include in your itinerary, one of them being a visit to Florence. Some of you might not want to base yourself here as it's quite touristy, but a day trip or an afternoon is definitely recommended, especially if you've never been before. When in Florence, make sure to visit the stunning Duomo of Santa Maria del Fiore and take a stroll through the historic streets to the Piazza della Signoria, where you'll find the Palazzo Vecchio, the Fountain of Neptune, and the Uffizi Gallery. And take a food or wine tour. Most tours start off from Florence, so you'll have a good variety to choose from. If you're staying in Pitigliano, then head just 30 minutes west to the Saturnia Hot Springs, one of the best and most popular thermal springs in Italy, where the water is said to have healing properties and is surrounded by beautiful gardens. It's open all year round and is completely free to enter. When in Tuscany, a wine tasting experience is a must, as of course Tuscany is famous for its wines, and you'll see tons of wineries around. Go wine tasting in Chianti. It's located just between Florence and Siena. The drive is super picturesque and is a really nice drive where you'll see the stunning countryside and have panoramic views over the idyllic vineyards. There's some amazing tours that start in Florence, or you can simply head to one of the many wineries along the way to Chianti. And if you're in San Gimignano, be sure to take a stroll along the charming, winding alleys and take in the medieval architecture and climb the tallest tower, the Torre Grossa, where you'll have some incredible views over the town and the Tuscan countryside. Or head over to Volterra, which is just west of San Gimignano. This used to be an Etruscan town, and there's a museum there dedicated to its Etruscan heritage, the Museum Guarnaci, which is a must-visit when here. There's also the ruins of an Etruscan acropolis nearby, as well as Roman ruins for you to explore. You can't have a trip to Tuscany without trying a traditional Tuscan cooking class. It's the perfect way to learn the secrets of pasta making from true Italians. If you enjoy cooking, then trust me, this is a must, and there's plenty of them available. The best ones are at home with a local. Another must is to take a day trip to Pisa, take an iconic photo at one of Italy's most famous landmarks, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and don't miss out on exploring the other stunning buildings around it. And if you love shopping, head to the ancient street Borgo Stretto. Not only are there great shops, but the street is really pretty and makes your shopping experience even more enjoyable. Then grab some lunch at one of the many delicious restaurants and cafes in the area. And lastly, I'll go through some essential tips to help you with your trip to Tuscany. Firstly, if you're going to rent a car, you'll want to know a couple of things before doing so. Italy is somewhat known for having aggressive drivers, so you may be a little nervous about driving here. But if you're in rural areas, then you'll find more laid-back drivers, so the experience will be less stressful. It's only really when you're driving in the cities that you'll come across more traffic and impatient drivers. But realistically, you won't be driving in these areas that much, so don't let this put you off. Another thing to be aware of is the smaller villages and towns have some really small, tight roads, which can be a bit of a challenge. So when you do choose your hire car, try and pick a smaller one to make things a little easier. And parking can be a problem, especially in the smaller towns. It's usually better to leave your car just outside of those towns and just walk in. There's usually car parks outside the town walls, which do charge a small fee, so plan your trip before you head out to avoid the stress. And if driving seems a little too stressful for you and you're into nature, then you can always hike or rent a bike to travel between the different towns and villages. It's a great way to really see the beauty of the countryside without the stress of parking and driving. If you're a coffee lover and enjoy sipping away for hours in a cafe whilst working on your laptop, then be aware that most cafes in Italy have a culture of drinking coffee at the counter, then leaving. It's not a place to hang out for hours. You will find some cafes for this, but in general, Italians grab a coffee for a quick break, and you shouldn't expect to be able to sit and work whilst in a cafe here. Tipping isn't customary in Italy. However, if you feel that a tip is deserved, then it'll definitely be appreciated. The amount totally depends on what you want to give. There isn't a percentage which is expected, but just remember that you can only tip in cash. Tuscany is pretty safe in general, but of course, as with all popular tourist destinations, there are some petty crimes, such as pickpocketing and scams to be aware of. So keep your bags zipped up and close to you and be aware of your surroundings, especially if you're using public transport. I really hope this guide helps you make the most of your trip to Tuscany. And if there's any other tips you know of that I've missed, be sure to put them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more travel guides and insider tips, and I'll catch you in the next video. Until then, stay safe, guys.